So thank you all for joining us today. I'm Carrie Mahoney from the ARC of Massachusetts, and I'll be your host facilitator. And this series is called Caregiving Around the Clock. It was developed by the ARC of Massachusetts and the Department of Developmental Services. And what we wanted to do was really acknowledge the extreme stress, commitment, dedication that you as caregivers you're providing for your loved ones at home, whether it's homeschooling or them being home from day program or not being able to see them because they're in a residential setting. It's been an incredibly difficult time. And just so this is probably our sixth program that we've done. We started in November, and we try to offer a variety of different webinars on this issue. My favorite ones are the parent panels, because I think parents, you're the best teachers there are. And it's so great that you share your stories, and people really, really learn a lot from all of you. So anyways, today I would like to, here's our things. So I want to introduce our panel members, and we have Marlene Pedroza and her daughter Bella, who's on.
Say hi.
Hi.
Hi. And we have Oanh Bui and Mandee Spittle and Kathleen Amaral. So today they're all going to share their lives during COVID and takeaways that they have, any silver linings, new perspectives, and ways they just kind of get through it. And so, Marlene, why don't you take it away?
Sure.
And, let us know who you are.
Good evening, everybody. How are you guys? Hope everyone is well.
My name is Bella.
Your name is Bella. So we have a background right now because as we're talking about during COVID and every other day, we are going with the flow. We had some maintenance issues in our unit, and they are not done. So we are sitting outside trying to do this. So we'll see how this goes, along with my little parrot by me, because this has been literally a year of one-to-one with Bella. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to tell them anything else about you?
I miss you.
You miss them. Well, you can miss them after, right? So Bella has been, hold on, let's see if we can do this. Are we going to talk through our slideshow, or what would be the best way?
Yes.
Okay.
So why don't you, just kind of tell me next, and I'll advance the slides for you.
So Bella has CP, Global Development, cortical vision impairment, and a rare genetic disorder called Zia Gibbs syndrome. Good job. We've been practicing this, right?
Yeah.
Bella in October got her trach placed. Want to show them your trach? We've been really proud of a great job she's doing with this new transition. Not only during COVID, but just with everything. Bella has been home for exactly a year.
You are there.
Hold on. Okay, let's be patient.
So
with Zooming and everything else, this is just how it's been. So I wasn't sure how this was going to work. Bella in October got a trach placed, and she arrested the day after. So for us, not only has COVID been a whole 360 in our lives, but also it's been a tough transition medically. She was in a coma for 2 months. We were inpatient. Sorry, she was in a coma for 3 weeks. We were inpatient for 2 months. And it was difficult not being able to have the support from family or friends. During this time, we were not able to have visitors. We were quarantined 100% at Children's. This is Bella's 57th surgery. So the medical aspect has been her whole life, but definitely this is already a new piece of it.
Yeah.
Transitioning from full-time schooling to remote was very difficult. Trying to figure out how we're going to make it work. And what we had to do as a family, her and I, to make it work. And every day we just make it work like we are right now. We knew we had to log into this presentation, and we're just taking it a moment at a time, a day at a time. Some days are definitely harder than others, but she definitely gives me the strength to carry on. What do you want to say about COVID? Do you want to share anything?
No.
No? How about remote schooling? How has that been?
Good.
It's been good. Why do you like remote schooling? Why do you like remote schooling? What do you like about it? What do you like about logging on to with your friends? Huh? Bella enjoys the social piece of it, which is a very big loss for her. She's so social, and not having that has been difficult. You're cold? I know, I'm so sorry. But for us, it's been a challenge, but we're making it work. And that's similar to what our day-to-day is. New behaviors, good and bad, but seeing how much she's gone through this time, and knowing that unfortunately for her, being so medically fragile right now, she's not able to be back at school. So her team at school, her medical team, we just try to make it work. Yes. So I'm sorry. So just taking it day at a time, and that's pretty much how it's been. And it's been like this for a year. 2 peas in a pod, literally. So it's this is the Bella life. This is Bella and Marlene, and it has had its challenges, but definitely grateful for the medical interventions, grateful for the therapies that we've been able to log on to, and hoping that there's better days ahead with the vaccine and going back to what will be our new norm.
Well, you certainly have a wonderful positive attitude, Marlene.
And
Bella too. And I'm sure that helps you get through
Absolutely.
the days a little bit easier. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a beautiful picture of you, Bella. Yeah. So anything else you wanted to share with us, or?
Unless anyone has any questions, I think that's just been, our year, and it's taking everything a day at a time. And definitely some days that's harder than others. But knowing that tomorrow's a new day. We don't know what it's gonna bring. But just for me, she's here, she's with us, and just taking everything as it goes. And definitely grabbing my strength from her, because she's the strongest little person I know. And the best, little parrot that we have. So this is our speech sessions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. All right.
Thank you,
and now we have Oanh.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Marlene, and thank you, Bella, for sharing. Definitely, it's a tough time to be in the hospital at this time, right? When we cannot be able to visit and so definitely both of you have been warriors as well. So thank you for sharing your story. So thank you, Carrie and the Arc of Mass, for creating this opportunity for us to be able to share a little bit of our maybe silver lining or our story here. Next slide, please. So a little bit about who I am. So if you can see here, that's just a photo of myself and Tiny, who is my daughter here. And I'm someone who traveled on the way from Vietnam here 15 years ago, trying to look for opportunity, both educational, social, medical care for my daughter, who have 2 chromosome disorder. So definitely, I don't have traditional family structures or in the immediate family like you all have. However, I'm always someone who look into the positive side of things, and I'm always someone who strongly believe that people with disability deserve to have a high quality of life and being treated with respect. I'm someone who always believes that a nonverbal child who always have things to say, if we spend enough time to build a relationship with them, just like myself and my daughter, because she's nonverbal and she communicate with a communication device. And of course, I'm a mom of Tiny. Tiny actually is her nickname, and her true name has a very deep meaning in that. As we all know, as a parent, we always have a high expectation of our child, right? So her real name could have, would means that she has both beauty inside and out. She has intelligence, and she also has a good heart. But things doesn't happen as we plan. Next slide, please. So just like at this time, we all have, COVID had changed our life upside down, right? And it's continuing to do that. And we all experience increased depression, increased anxiety, increased stress, because that we all might have to work from home. We might have to change our work lifestyles. We have to balance work and life. We have to do multiple Zoom, you name it. Like we all know, and we have been through this. So maybe something if you remember at the beginning of COVID, what do we do? Like they just say, just 2 weeks and then we're back, right? Now, 2 months and now it's a full year. We're still in pandemic. Yes, there's some hope from vaccine, but people with disability like our daughter, like our loved one, like as Tiny, my daughter, still very vulnerable for not being able to fully access to education, for not being able to fully access to social capitals, you name it. And personally, I think just like everybody else, that you name it, as a parent, you physically, mentally, spiritually exhausted. So what do we do? As you can see here as a chart, I believe that the charts were created by Washington state authorities that moving different zone in a way that help us as a parents to find different behaviors, different methodologies, different ways so that we can cope and we can overcome. So at the beginning of the stage, like people starting to hoarding a lot. So instead of doing that, I started to move and reflect a little bit more in terms of what you can control, what you can be able to do, how you can be able to be useful, and maintaining the healthy family life to be sure that your child can also sense of that healthy environment to grow as well. And then when you're reflecting about what you can control, what you can do, you starting to adapt into that. And as you can imagine, being the single mom and being an immigrant in the US, I have to deal with tons of different difficulties. So dealing with COVID, I think in a way that could be easier for me, in a way that I could be able to adapt it well. Next slide, please. Because to me, as I introduced at the beginning, I always stay positive and look at positive sides of things, just like a quote from Mahatma Gandhi here, that we always keep our thought positive because your thought become your words. Keep your words positive because your words become your behavior, and keep your behavior positive because it becomes your habit. So trying to stay as much as positive as you can, but at the same time, look at the bright side of things. And I have been trying to choose hope over fear, and trying to find ways to allow positive outweigh negativities. So next slide, please. So what have been done, what I have done, and what did I do? Try to keep routine as much as I can. Get up early during the day, do a cup of coffee, listen to a little bit of news. You choose your news, right, so that it doesn't affect your day. And definitely back then when the weather's nicer, I'm always just going to the garden. I think one thing that's very therapeutic for me during COVID is to work in the garden, take photo of the flowers from my gardens, and then post on Facebook, tag that with a quote and some nice positive thing, just to give me a good way to start my day. And that has been helping me a lot in terms of get through the day and start the day with a positive note. And I'm trying to stay physically active if I can by either, walk in the garden, work in the garden, or trying to drag my daughter to kind of hiking where there are not so many people, because sometimes she not being able to keep her mask on, sometimes she leave it on. So trying to find a space where it's safe enough so that we can have some fresh air at the same time. One time when we both went for a walk at my colleague, we found some rocks, really nice rock. We brought it home. And then we decided to come up with the idea, let's paint rocks. And as you can see on the screen, they're one of the rock that both of us painting during COVID time. And we have done a few of them and that we share during Christmas. We just send, people request, friends request, or, some of Tiny's friends that we just painted based on their characters, and then we just give them out at a Christmas time, and that could be something that we do also during Christmas time. Next slide, please. So as many of you know, during COVID and when COVID started, the Asian community has been impacted a lot because of the xenophobia that I don't need to mention about where it all started, but that hit badly my community. I'm Vietnamese, so a good numbers of Vietnamese speaking parents do not have access to a good, informed information because the lack of language access. So here I am, busy enough. I only have 24/7 day, but I decided to do weekly Zoom with the hope that we can provide some emotional support so that we can be bonding together, at least just to share the heaviness that we all facing on the day-to-day basis, because a good numbers of our families already have a stare, already being judged when they go to the store and things like that. Like, you go back to the country, it's so familiar, but it's really heavy for us. So that is how we can do and what I can do during this time, and keep doing that until now, with the hope that having this could be able to give them more emotional, educational support so that we can all get through this together collectively. And at the same time, not just supporting parents, we also supporting young adults, because they also impacted a lot by social isolation. So we do also, I'm running weekly music therapy and also weekly drum alive, so that our kids could be able to maintain and connect to one another as well. Next slide, please. And at the same time, this would be another way that we're doing is to keep routine, stay routine as possible. So during the whole years of COVID, my daughter and I have been able to come up with a schedule that every Friday we will watch a movie. So we both would pick a movie and we watch together, or we read book all the time, every night basically. And then once she finished reading movie, for her, she loved collect pop toy. So that could be an opportunity for us to talk about that, get through the day together. So that how we get through the day. So I would like to end, next slide please, and that could be the question slide, but I would like to end our conversation here with positive note is that we will get through this together. Try to stay as positive as you can, and trying to find a good thing, and trying to find the bright side of things, so that it can help us build us mental well-being, so that we can get through. And just like Marlene, I think that Tiny also the source of energy and the source of strength that we as a parent, or myself as a parent, can be able to get through, so that we ensure that we, or I as a parent, ensure that I can maintain her well-being and safety. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Oanh. That was really insightful. I love all the things you do with nature and beauty, and those rocks were gorgeous. Great idea.
Yeah, I know that. Like, if just another note, I'm going to put in the chat, but I know there's only 10 minutes. You cannot see the full pictures of our life. But back in August, I did work with BU and doing similar kind of presentation that get more in terms of diverse portraits of families. So if you're interested in knowing more of perspective from diverse community whose English is not their first language, check that out. It's a video. So I'm going to put in the chat. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you. All right. So now we're going to hear from Mandee.
Hi, I'm Mandee Spittle. I am the mom to 6-year-old twin girls, Emma and Sophia. So that's a picture of our family right there. All of us, even the dog, got in, who's also been quite impacted by this pandemic. So a little bit about our family. Like I said, I have 6-year-old twin girls, Emma and Sophia. Emma and Sophia were born very prematurely. And so at 27 weeks, they spent a significant amount of time in the hospital when they were born. And so when the pandemic came around, Emma's team of doctors said, well, you guys are really well fit to isolate and quarantine because you've been doing this for most of the girls' lives. When the girls came home from the hospital, we had to keep them safe. They had, both of them had chronic lung disease from being born so early. And so we really learned early on how to stay in a bubble. I never wanted to be in a bubble like we are right now for this pandemic. I can't believe it's been a year. We preemptively took the girls out of school a couple of days earlier than when the school shut down last year, when we had an exposure at my daughter's school. So Sophia and Emma do go to different schools, which means, hold on, honey, I'm presenting, okay? Which means that that's like two different, Sophia, you go ask Mariah, please, okay, honey?
We can't hear you, Mandee.
Can you guys hear me? Oh, okay. I just see Carrie talking, but she's muted. Okay, so we've been home for a year. I never would have imagined a year ago that this would be what our life is, that we'd be here home with one another. But Emma, my daughter, has quite a few different medical issues that keep her in the high risk population. So we have really had to, we stopped our block nursing. So Emma receives continuous skilled nursing at home. So when the pandemic hit, we had to really step back and say, what is our risk level going to be? How are we going to keep Emma safe? How are we going to keep her sister safe? And how are we going to do this together as a family? I wasn't working at the time because when Emma's in and out of the hospital a lot, which prevents me from being able to work. So one of the benefits was that I was already not working, so we didn't have to figure out how to have mom work from home remotely. But my husband works at the State House, and so that suddenly changed things. And so he was working from home. And that was a big adjustment. It was a big adjustment to be in my house with my husband all the time, and both my girls, who in the beginning, we had no idea if this was going to be 2 weeks. I mean, I never imagined it would be 2 weeks long. I didn't imagine it was also going to be a year. So we really had to step back and really rely on Emma's team of doctors at Children's to kind of guide us on where do we go from here. And so we knew that obviously school was going to be shut down for the rest of the year, but what we didn't know was what the next school year was going to look like. And so very quickly, I was really motivated to try to keep a schedule. Now, that is much easier said than done. But things that we really have leaned on during this past year is that Emma has Down syndrome and a host of medical issues. So we're dealing with her needs. And then I'm dealing with her twin sister, who is neurotypical, for lack of a better word, but also neurodivergent in her own right. So she has a lot of sensory issues. She likes routine schedules. When she gets overwhelmed, things can become very rigid. And Emma's much more flexible. So I have two kids, very different, and have both their own, unique set of needs. So for Sophia and for Emma and for even my husband, Jeremy, we started really with that like family mantra of like, I always say to my girls, like, beautiful girl, you can do hard things. We can do hard things. We've done many hard things since I was pregnant with them. And so I'm always saying, you are safe, you are loved, you are happy, and kind of that positive self-talk because it's easy to get caught in the unknowns and what's going to happen. And you can quickly go off the deep end. Like you can go in that rabbit hole, and I fear if I went down, I might never come out. So I really do try to stay positive. It comes to me more easily than it does to some people, and I recognize that. My husband is more of a, he's not as optimistic as I am, and I can kind of bring him out of that. But we don't have, we went from having block nursing, which was really our only support at that time, to not having any support. So our bubble was just the 4 of us and our dog. And my family all lives in another state. And so we don't have any other help. So for 3 months, we had no nursing. And we also, it was really hard. And so we stayed connected through technology, Zooming. I feel like my family in Colorado almost knows my kids better now because they FaceTime with them so much. In the beginning, my mom was really sad that she's fluent in sign language. She's also very verbal. And so my mom was really sad that Emma wasn't communicating with her. I'm like, call her every day, Mom. She'll start talking to you. And now every day she's like, I want to call Emma. I want to call Emma. And so we've really made an effort to stay connected via, Facebook or FaceTime. I've also really worked with my girls, like things that work for my kids really work for adults too. So like we color a lot because it helps bring down that stress level. We really try to get our bodies moving. So cosmic yoga. I had to lower my expectations. I laughed today on the phone with my therapist. She told me I could lower my expectations. So guess what? I lowered my expectations. I said, we're in a pandemic. This has never happened before. And there's a caveat. I didn't lower my expectations of my kids. I lowered my expectations of myself and what I could get done at home reasonably in a global pandemic, with the fear and the anxiety about what was going to happen if we contracted COVID. So I really said, okay, if we're going to be here, we're going to have to all learn to get along 24/7. Emma's got a central line, a G-tube, an ileostomy. There's lots of equipment. I suddenly became full-time mom to both of them at home, full-time teacher, full-time nurse. And something's got to give, right? None of us can do it all. And usually we have that village, the people that help us. Sophia had social outlets. She had soccer and dance and places to go and play dates. And suddenly all of that was taken away. Emma lost her friends and her social aspect of going to school. One of the most favorite things for Emma is going to school for the social aspect. And she also loves school. She loves learning. And so we had to come up with a new norm. And we really had to start to give each other that grace, like to say, you know what, it's okay. Like we're all just going to put on a movie in the middle of the day because it's hard right now. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world that we can't control. And so we've come up with this kind of, it's not, I tried to do, in the beginning, it was like stuff was getting thrown at us left and right, like for homeschooling schedules and this kind of that. And it was easy to get wrapped up in all of that. And I was like, we're going to do this schedule and we're going to do that. And it wasn't realistic. Emma's G-tube would fall out, or she needed a dressing change, and I had to stop everything. And I realized quickly, like that wasn't really good for Sophia either, because everything suddenly was about her sister. Right. And there's always been that me trying to balance her sister's needs and her other sister's needs. And for Sophia not to feel like Emma's getting all the attention. And COVID really increased her feeling that Emma was getting all the attention. And she still feels that way. And so how do I make things about her when we're stuck in the house? So we started that gratitude list. So every night before bed, Sophia and I lay down together, just the two of us, and we have a gratitude journal. Sophia is a very artistic child. She really likes to create, and I had to lower my expectations and realize my house was going to look like a craft studio, paintings everywhere. And I had to let that piece go. And I really started focusing on, with Emma and Sophia, the mindfulness. I started working for myself on the meditation piece. My sister's a meditation instructor in Colorado, and I really leaned on her to say, I need to do something. I can feel my anxiety ramping up. My anxiety then goes on to Emma and Sophia and my husband, and and so I really started to lean on them, and I really started to know that I needed to move myself. I needed to just get some of that anxiety out of my body. And so we really started working on those things, and I really start to try to incorporate them, even if it's jumping jacks in the middle of the day, and we take 10 minutes and we're like, we're going to do jumping jack. We're going to march in place. And it's really good for Emma to move her body, and Sophia gets all of her angst out. And so we pause. And what I have done, Carrie, if you'll go to the next slide, that would be helpful to give me, so I know what I'm talking about, because I can't remember it all. But what I did was, I put visuals, like I have visuals in my house, because I will forget, like all of a sudden all this stuff's coming at me, and I have doctors calling, and something's coming, Emma's got something going on, her pump's beeping, Sophia is, there's all this stuff coming at me, and I'm like, and then I'm like, wait a minute, like I can stop and I can breathe, and we can all do this together, and Sophia can help, and Emma can help. And you know what? Jeremy might be on a conference call, but like I'm yelling, I need you to come down and help me. And that's just part of the world we're living in right now, right? Dogs barking in the background, kids coming in, and us having to really say that that's okay right now. And what I did was I will say, like, these are the things that we can do when we're upset. What can we do? When we're worried, what can we do? We can pause. We can check out for a little bit and listen to some music. We can try to relax. We can work on mindfulness activities. But honestly, like, I am a therapist, and I don't, like, I have to like put stuff around my house to remind me, like, oh my God, like I need it tattooed on me. Mandee, just breathe. Like, just stop for a second. If you just stop and breathe, like things will, like, you'll be able to get through it. And so you can see our handprints. So one of them is mine and one of them is Sophia's. But we really had to work on, like, what is it that we can control and what can't we control? Because there's so much of what's happening in the pandemic that we really don't have control over. But there are things that we can do. And so we can choose how we react to things. We can choose how we decide to social distance, how we decide to wear our masks, and I always say to my girls, it's our family, so it's our rules. Our family is different than other families. We have to worry about, medical complexities and the medical fragility of Emma. And, we want to not be in the hospital all the time. COVID has actually given us a reprieve from that because we're in a bubble. And I can feel my anxiety starting to go higher and higher as we're talking about Sophia returning to school, because it's important for her to go back to school, for her mental health, for her social component, but there's so much we still can't control. But the things that for me, that is also in my life, like with Emma and her medical stuff, okay, there's only so much I can control too with her medical stuff, right? So much of it is up to people way more powerful and bigger than us. And so I've really had to turn whatever you believe in, I've had to turn a lot of it over to, I can only do what I can do. And then I'm going to breathe and hold on for dear life and hope it all just turns out right. But I can also know that I can try to help my kids to pause and then try to help them move through this with some sort of grace, and to continue to be kind to the people that are out there, and to know, like, I'll be driving down the street and I'll see someone without a mask and I want to be like, well, that person doesn't have a mask. And Sophia's like, well, but mommy, maybe they just forgot it at home. And I'm like, oh yeah, maybe they did forget it at home. Like, trying to find the positive things and really trying to just be present, because now I'm getting a little bit sad about thinking about Sophia going back to school. And like, I've liked having my kids home. Like, I've liked seeing them grow and develop over the last year. It's been nice. It was rocky in the beginning, but it's really nice to have Jeremy home now and not have to say, oh yeah, work's over between 5 and 6, but then I have to commute home from Boston, and now he's home. And so there has been some things, like my kids are closer to my family because they're talking to them all the time in Colorado. And so I do try to focus on the positive things, but man, it's hard. This is hard to be home with your kids all the time and to feel like, 10 times a day, I feel like I'm a bad mom and I didn't make the right choice, or what am I doing that's going to have a long-term effect on them? And you know what? We've never been in a global pandemic. Nobody knows what the right thing to do is. And we're all just trying, and we're all just doing the best we can. And I think if we all continue to do that, then we will get through this and we will have a new normal. And I'm hoping it's sooner rather than later. So that's us.
Well, thank you, Mandee. That was great. I think of you often with the two kids, and
Yeah.
not easy. Not
Yeah.
easy whatsoever, but just you're getting through it, and which is great. And I apologize for my dog who is now barking. So now we're going to have Kathleen.
Thank you. Wow, just to hear from Marlene and Oanh and Mandee, I just, so much of what you shared, I also sort of have been experiencing and thinking through. And there's certainly a common theme, I think, around our, if you will, looking to the silver lining. So thank you for sharing. So I'm here to share about my experience, and I thought I would start out by talking a little bit about my family, and then a little bit about myself, and in the ways that in which we've been coping and managing and moving through this incredibly difficult time. You see there my smiling in the picture, my Emma, she's 19. And so a year ago, she was a senior in high school. And she's allowed me to share this photo and a little bit about the struggles that we went through as a family. Very difficult for her. She was somebody that she very self-motivated, very outgoing, all of her life, had a great friend group, and I didn't expect to get emotional, I apologize. Her senior year was quite difficult, and she really crashed. On one level, you could say some of the things superficial, missing out on graduation and prom and all that stuff. And she was looking forward, for all of her life, she wanted to attend Providence College, and what you see on the picture of my family on the bottom. I think because it held like a special place for our family, it was a place that her brother was granted a wish when he was young, and I'll talk about Liam. And there's an affiliation there, and we would often get tickets or invited to go to events and some special things. And she grew up taking part and experiencing that along with him. I guess the perks, right, of having a brother with some complex needs. Sometimes some opportunities arise, and so I believe that was sort of her reasoning behind having a special place. So she really did strive to get good grades and all that. Like I said, she's very self-motivated. And she decided to take a gap year, which full support. I think she was struggling internally whether or not we would support that decision. I work, I'll talk about myself, but I work in a field where I encourage families to think big and to have a vision and follow your passion. So she she applied and is currently in cosmetology school, and she's thriving now. But this year has been very difficult for her. And then I have my now 11-year-old May. She's an empath. She cares for everyone around her. She's taken all of this with a grain of salt. She's a wonderful supporter of her older sister and her older brother. And that brings me to Liam. And so Liam is 17. And so when this started, he was 16. He was born with a rare genetic metabolic disorder that presented itself, he doesn't look it now, but it presented itself in very complex ways. He was G-tube fed. He aspirates, and as he grew, developmental delay, he unable to, communicate verbally, and he does require care, one-to-one care for safety, for medical reasons, and for the most intimate of needs. And so when school stopped, and he, not unlike any of the stories we've heard, he was very reliant upon a very structured schedule. He loved going to school. He had experienced trauma about 3 years ago where he was hurt pretty significantly by a teacher, and he was placed in an out-of-district placement, which was not something that I personally had envisioned for him, but it turned out to be the perfect move, and it allowed us to still work on him being known in his community. So it was just he loved going to school every day. And I shared, I think, one presentation, Carrie, early on, and I had that picture of Liam that first day, that March 16th, staring out the window with his PJs on, but he'd always get his backpack, like he knew the bus was supposed to come. And that was just the beginning of a very complex time of him just really missing out on that routine of going to school. And so we had to kind of reconfigure what a day would look like for him, for me being home, shifting to being fortunate to work from home. Very grateful for the opportunity of having a space within my home that I could work, but presented with the frustrations around not being able to care for him and be on meetings. And I'm in a place right now where things are okay. So it's really even difficult to kind of look back to think about all of the how difficult it was to manage day by day. And like Mandee and I tend to have a turn your frown upside down, keep a positive attitude, move forward, you can do it. That positive self-talk, and I tend to always look at the glass half full. But to sit in that space and to recognize the struggle that, like I said, everyone in my family went through. It's hard to think about that, but we continue to, depending upon the day, struggle with that. So I think move to the next slide. Oh, so to know me, so I work a little bit back. So I work for, I had some transitions, but that's okay. They're not going to work. But I do some work for the Arc of Massachusetts. I work with Carrie. I work for a nonprofit part-time for Mass Families, organizing family leadership trainings in the Southeast region. And to know me is to know that I like to stay busy, and I like to be a part of initiatives that I feel like I can contribute positively to. So I'm a citizen member of the board of the DD Council, help out with my local CPAC. I did resign last year, then COVID hit, and here I am still organizing basic rights for the second week of April. I'm on my school committee, which has been quite complex, and it hasn't been all fun, but I'm in it for the long haul. And up until recently, I was a Rotarian in my town. Service was very important to me, giving back, showing, being able to kind of give back what I feel my family has received in terms of my son's health, despite his complex, profile and all of that. It's important for me to give back to my community. But during this time, one very difficult thing was in recognizing that I couldn't do it. There has been like a push-pull, even marital stress, in terms of my husband was working outside the house, still is, and negotiating with him some sort of a schedule and sort of evening out the prioritization of our roles. That has been an ebb and flow, the ups and downs of, he's actually currently took the part of the day off, and he's with Liam at Children's for a dental appointment. So that's why my house is quiet right now. But that's been quite difficult. And so I had to sort of recognize, and I was a treasurer on our Democratic Town Council. So I had to recognize that while in normal time, all of that fit nicely with my husband's work and his meetings, we would negotiate, who's on first. It was like a smoother process. And COVID, I think I became the de facto, I'm working from home. And so we had to work through some of the expectation of what that meant, because I'm working from home, caring for my kids, but I still have responsibilities, and that needs to be valued. And I need to value his time and not always rely on him for the caretaking responsibilities, just because we don't have skills trainers anymore, just because we don't have PCAs anymore. So that's been a constant struggle. And that picture there with Dan Shannon, I think that might have been the last in-person event prior to the pandemic. On my Facebook feed, I shared recently another video from a few days before that, I believe, or after that, the last weekend, where my son was jumping up and down and singing at a Providence Fire basketball game with all the people in that arena. And looking at that picture and that video sort of gives me goosebumps, because I don't know that I feel comfortable. I don't even know when I'll ever feel comfortable being in a group so large and so packed with people. But here we are. So yeah, recognizing and prioritizing and stepping away, just temporarily stepping away is what they'll allow me to do on the Rotary Club. So I'm still on their emails, but they recognize the difficulty. And that was difficult for me, because I don't sign up for things that I can't complete. But I had to lower that expectation. I had to prioritize. And so since doing that, I've given myself permission. And so we're here a year later, and I'm still sort of figuring this out. Okay, and the next slide, Carrie. Okay, so this one, if you know my son, you'll know that he typically has like this incredible smile. He is so happy-go-lucky, loving, caring, patient. I could go the opposite. He's impulsive. He has a low attention span, but you twist that into the positive, and he's just an incredible young man. He makes caring for him easy. And this face of him crying is one that although he is back in school most of the time, there have been many quarantines and times away from school, that this is what I see a lot of the time when he's home, because he misses and he recognizes what he's missing when the bus doesn't come. So to see his reaction to the change in his routine is heartbreaking, and it's very difficult to see. On the other hand, yeah, so I mentioned the marital issues, caring for, trying to make sure I get all my points here. And this Bitmoji just is perfect. It just exemplifies what I felt and what I think all of our other speakers probably feel, have felt this whole time. The end of the day, when everyone's settled and I can sometimes do work, I'm making a better routine to go to bed instead of do work late at night. But those of you who work with me and get late emails know that I'm not perfect and I'm human. And so some days I still stay up late and work. But yeah, just out of gas, just mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, I think onset, just exhausted. And filling up my cup and trying to stay positive. That's, I already mentioned doing that self-positive talk. Those have also been my strategies, and being grateful for my son's health and being grateful for my opportunity. And so looking at my current experience and what my life is like, and recognizing all of the ways in which I am blessed has helped me move through. We're really fortunate. We're not, a incredibly wealthy family, but I've got food on the table and I've got a roof over my head, and I have a tiny little backyard that allows for my son to mow the lawn. And that lawnmower, if I were to say what was the saving grace about him being out of school and out of routine and not receiving, services, he can't attend to a Zoom lesson. His school bent over backwards, providing us visual strategies. And some of the time when he's out, and if I just show him a picture of a teacher, I think it brings him back to remembering the routine in a positive way, and a smile kind of ensues. And so we've been doing that, showing him pictures and showing him the work. But I've given myself permission not to worry about him doing all of the work. It overwhelming. It's a burden for him. It frustrates him, having to do work at home and not being able to sort of sit and listen to a Zoom. It just doesn't work. So he has thrived, 17, and he's been doing yard work, self-taught yard work, and it's been wonderful, rain or shine. That lawnmower and going outside has really provided us some respite and some peace and relaxation for him. But also he's sort of taken to helping with laundry, and these are all things he has like a strong, high interest in. And so it's sort of like during this time, we've recognized the ways in which we've known his personality, we've known his interests, but also now his desire to sort of help out without being able to say so, and not being able to do everything perfectly. But it's been wonderful to see him kind of step into some responsibility and show us some of the skills or interests in helping that he has. It's been really wonderful, because I tend to do a lot for him and not allow over the years, and not allowing him the opportunity to show me what he's capable of. Although, that certainly doesn't exist in a vacuum. I'm giving myself a hard time by saying that, but a lot of the time I would do for him rather than waiting for him to do. And this one silver lining during this time is seeing him just develop and mature. It's been wonderful. Let's see. Okay, next slide. So I wish you could see that smiley face, but it's under there, and he's just a joy. Okay, so I show this picture, and I have here in my little notes, I have a couple words to remind me of what I want to say. And this picture reminds me about how we can do hard things. And so early on, like I said, he was home for most of this time, frustrated not to have a routine. We had to kind of re-envision, lower my expectations, allowing him to kind of do things, experience things, how, being there for my other two kids. And as a family, we tend to go on long drives, car rides to places that we enjoy, drives down to the Cape and other places, to Boston. Just driving around, long drives have been a wonderful respite for our family. My husband, myself, all of us. And we would only venture in stores when there was a necessary reason. And one particular day, and so we'd all be in the car and we'd go maybe drive around, drop my husband off at the store and come, go to the car wash or come back, go through the drive-through at Starbucks or what have you. And honestly, never did I ever Liam has sensory issues and he's very impulsive and he doesn't let anything near his face. It's hard to help, with brushing teeth and things. I never thought he would be able to wear a mask. But after several months of this routine where we'd all have to hop in the car, we can't leave the kids home, Liam can't be left at home alone. I wasn't sure about, it's very difficult kind of managing those things. So we'd all hop in the car and my husband had to get socks or underwear or something. So we wanted to go to Kohl's and Liam grabbed a mask that was in the front, a new mask like hanging there. He grabbed it and he put it on. I have a picture because I snapped a picture right after it happened. It wasn't on right. It was kind of all messed up. This wasn't the mask. This is just because he's awesome and he can really wear pink well. But he put the mask on and he said, "I want go." And I was panicking. Like, I don't want him to go. I can't, he's going to be hugging everybody. Like, he's not going to keep that mask on. He went into the store with my husband and kept the mask on the whole entire time. He was craving social interaction so much. And he just blew me away. I just didn't think he would be capable of wearing that mask. He's just so aware of everything around him that you can't pull the wool over his eyes and you can't sort of make him do. He's not easygoing. He tends to be, he is easygoing, but he tends to be rigid around things that kind of invade his space. And he'll only wear clothes that he chooses, and it's like a process. And for him to now every day, when he is at school, obviously I still have concerns, but he comes home smelling like a clean hospital, and he has that mask on, and he can do hard things and he can step up to the challenge. And so, it's been difficult as we move back toward more normalcy with vaccines and whatnot. It's going to still take time, and we're going to have to kind of, take it slow. But, being able to focus on what you can control and letting the rest go, trying to be positive, trying to look at the bright side, and taking everything day by day is really where it's at. And I think that's my last slide, Carrie. Oh, just another one. Yeah, that's it. That's our family. So thank you.
All right, well, thank you. I want to thank Marlene and Oanh and Kathleen and Mandee for sharing your lives with us today. Just really great stories. So appreciative of what you do every day and get through it. And I'm just sharing this slide because this was at our other parent panel, and I just thought it was wonderful. And it really was relates to all of you, because you're all so positive and get through the day type of people, and we're going to do this and that sort of thing. But I just thought this was a great slide to share. So I'm wondering if anybody has any questions for any of the panelists. I see a couple in the chat. Let me just. So we always see so much of our kids during COVID, right? Yeah, you know, I've heard so many stories from families that really have had a different perspective of what their kids can do. You know, there was one mom this a couple of weeks ago, and she talked about she had the whole transition plan. Her kids were turning 22 during COVID, and she basically said it wouldn't have worked. So it's, you know, taking the good with the hard work too. So I want to thank you again, the panelists, and thank you all who joined us today. And I hope everybody has a great night.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you,
you,
everyone.
everyone.
Great to meet you, Mandee, Kathleen, and Marlene, and Bella.
Nice to see you.
Good
Yes,
night.
thank you.
Carrie.
Where's my leave button?